In the dead of night, 4 men lay wide awake in the darkness. They were prisoners in the world's most secure prison, Alcatraz, an island fortress just off the coast of San Francisco. Alcatraz was surrounded by icy waters, brutal waves, and sharp rocks. No one had ever escaped from it and lived. This prison was designed to be escape-proof, yet tonight, these men were willing to risk everything. They weren't just escaping from a jail cell, they were defying the impossible. It was midnight, and these 4 men, John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, Frank Morris, and Alan West, knew they had only a few hours to make their move. They slipped out of bed. Each of them walked to their wash basins, quietly loosening the pipes below. They removed what looked like a stone block from the wall behind the sink. But this was no ordinary wall. It was actually cardboard painted to look like concrete. Behind this fake wall was a narrow hole just big enough for a person to crawl through. They had spent months digging this hole inch by inch, using stolen spoons, metal scraps, and even a drill crafted from a stolen vacuum motor. One by one, the men crawled into the tunnel they had carved out. But then, the first snag in their plan appeared. Alan West, the 4th man, got stuck. His tunnel wasn't wide enough. As he struggled to push through, time ticked by, precious seconds slipping away. The others waited, desperately hoping he would make it. But they knew they couldn't wait forever. After nearly half an hour, they made a difficult decision. They had to leave him behind. John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, and Frank Morris moved on. Staying silent and out of sight, they climbed a pipe attached to the building, but they knew every step had to be careful. A single wrong move, a tiny noise, and it could all be over. Finally, they reached a small workshop. Here, they grabbed a large sheet they had stashed earlier. It was more than just fabric, it was part of a grander plan. They continued their climb, this time heading up to the rooftop where they could see the entire prison layout below them. They kept low, crawling along the roof so the guards in the towers wouldn't spot them. They reached the top of the prison kitchen where they faced another challenge, getting back down. A pipe ran down the side of the building, leading to the ground below. One by one, they began to descend. The first 2 men made it down safely, but as the 3rd man started, a nearby pipe suddenly broke loose, clattering to the ground below. The sound was loud, echoing through the night. Inside the prison, a few guards jolted awake, alarmed. They listened closely, but after a quick assessment, they dismissed it as nothing more than a cat or maybe a raccoon. They told themselves that if there was another noise, they'd investigate. So, to the prisoners' luck, the guards didn't come to check. For the next half hour, the men lay completely still, barely daring to breathe. They couldn't risk another sound. After what felt like an eternity, they finally continued their escape, moving quietly across the prison yard, crawling on their hands and knees to avoid being seen by the guards. The next part of their journey brought them to an iron fence towering 10 feet high. The men scaled it one by one, only to find a second fence just beyond. Determined, they climbed over the second fence as well, and then finally they reached it, the shore of San Francisco Bay. The cold night air and the sound of waves crashing against rocks greeted them. Here they put the next part of their plan into action. From the workshop, they had stolen several raincoats issued to prisoners during stormy days. For months, they had secretly collected these raincoats, stitching them together to create a makeshift raft. It was a risky plan, but it was all they had. They carefully unrolled the sheet, and Morris took out a small accordion. But this wasn't just any instrument, it was an air pump repurposed to inflate the raft. Slowly, the raft began to take shape, stretching out into something big enough to hold all 3 men. With makeshift paddles they had carved from scrap wood, they slid the raft into the icy water. As they drifted into the dark, frigid bay, their minds must have been racing with the possibilities and dangers ahead. Behind them lay Alcatraz, the prison that was said to be escape-proof. Before them lay the deadly waves of San Francisco Bay, and somewhere beyond, freedom. The next morning, during breakfast, it was discovered that 3 men were missing. At first glance, it appeared they were still sleeping, but when the guards called out to them, there was no response. Suspicious, one guard approached and reached out to shake the nearest prisoner awake. But what he touched wasn't skin. It was cold, hard plaster. The men's faces weren't real. They were dummies, masks that looked uncannily like human faces crafted from soap, concrete dust, and even bits of human hair. The alarm sounded, echoing throughout Alcatraz, as guards swarmed the cell block, searching every corner. In the cells, they found holes hidden behind the wash basins, leading to tunnels. The walls were chipped and carved meticulously, a secret passageway dug by sheer determination. In the maintenance corridor, they found footprints and scraps of fabric, signs of a carefully crafted escape. The FBI was immediately alerted and a massive search operation was launched. Investigators scoured the prison grounds, the tunnels and the waters surrounding Alcatraz. Finally, about 200 meters from the island, they found remnants of a raft floating in the waves. But there were no bodies, no further traces. The prisoners had vanished without a trace. The FBI theorized that the men had drowned, swept away by the powerful currents. But others weren't so sure. Then they questioned Alan West, the man left behind. His story revealed everything. He explained how they had started planning in December 1961, forming a friendship in another prison before being transferred to Alcatraz. They spent months scraping away at the walls, one spoonful of concrete at a time. Eventually, when the spoons proved too slow, they used pieces of metal stolen from the prison workshop. And when that wasn't enough, Morris crafted a drill from a vacuum cleaner motor, using it to dig faster. To hide the sound of drilling, they used music hour, a time when prisoners were allowed to play instruments for 1 hour daily. Morris played the accordion loudly, covering up the drilling noise. Every day, the men disposed of the dust and debris, spreading it around different parts of the prison yard. With West's account, the FBI pieced together the entire escape plan. But even with the full story, they were still left with the same question. Where were the men? For years, rumors circulated. Some said they had made it to land and started a new life. Others believed they had drowned in the icy waters. Alcatraz closed down in 1963, but the mystery of the escape lingered. Then, in 1979, the FBI received an intriguing tip. 2 elderly men were spotted running a small farm in Brazil. Witnesses claimed they bore a striking resemblance to the Anglin brothers, but by the time agents arrived, the men were gone, leaving only a faded photograph. Then in 2013, another twist. The FBI received a mysterious letter. It claimed to be written by John Anglin himself, now an old man in his 80s, terminally ill with cancer. He offered to turn himself in, on one condition, that he would serve only 1 more year in jail and receive proper medical care. The letter hinted that Morris and Clarence Anglin had passed away. However, the FBI kept the letter a secret for years, finally releasing it to the public in 2017. In January 2022, after years of doubt, The FBI used artificial intelligence to analyze that old photograph from Brazil. The results shocked the nation. It confirmed that the men in the photograph were indeed John and Clarence Anglin. The impossible had happened. They had done what no one thought could be done. The legend of the Alcatraz escape lives on. It's a story of courage, determination, and the unbreakable human spirit. It's a story that reminds us that even the most impenetrable walls cannot hold back a person with a dream and a plan.